Hello, everybody, and good evening, or good, I guess it's not even evening anymore, it's just night. I hope everybody's having a good night. Welcome back to the Hive if you're a returning guest. Yeah, that's my sleepy time video. I keep picture little animals in the rain, and yeah, it's really pleasant. I can put on a loop, and just drift off to sleep. I was not trying to get everybody to sleep. I was like, I like that edit I did on that. I actually just found that image of the frogs on the branch like that, under the leaf in the rain, and I'm like, you know what? I bet I could animate that with some fake rain. And one thing led to another, and next thing you know, I'm putting together all kinds of animal images and rain background clips and making sleepy time stuff. Yeah. So I as promised, I'm going to continue doing the tier zoo rundown of the insect tier list. I am happy to do so. So far, we've had one disagreement with tier zoo, and that was over the. Well, here's their tier list. Let me show you. I'll just get it pulled up right now. We'll jump right in. Hey, Michael. Good to see you. We got Wilberforce and Gurr, Sandy and Pornbot and Maya, Godseed. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. And thank you for voting in the poll, too. I'm just trying to plot out what I'm going to do with this. Oh, hold on. That came out. What I'm going to do with the channel moving into 2023, right? Got to plot and plan things. So it's important for me to know what my audience is looking for. So let me know throughout the video if you change your mind, or if you want to vote for more than one and have a stock account, come vote on that one. I don't care. I just need to get good statistics. I understand that some of you might be here for all of the above. It looks like science and conversations is where it's at. And yeah, I'm absolutely down for that. I love having, like, when me and Mark did the Halloween review of Bob Larson, or when I had Godless Engineer on and we talked about mud fossils. That was in this time slot too. I try to do things like on Thursday nights as one of my free nights. So if I'm not busy, I'll try to do something. I am gonna wrap this up for the following Thursday nights. Obviously, last Thursday I didn't do anything because it was a holiday, and it was not just a holiday, evening with the family, fall asleep at 9:30 kind of holiday. So I hope you understand. Yes, Gerd did sneak right by you, Maya. How are you policing my side chat so expertly, and then Gurr is sneaking in. Oh, but yes, as far as these tier lists go, there is mine. That's where I put everything. Okay. The audio quality on the last video I did of this was terrible. I'm gonna have to go back in and edit it at some point. Probably once I finish the whole series, I'll go re-release the first episode. But for right now, I'm just gonna recap because I'm gonna spend too much time hanging around on the meta. No one cares how the sausage is made, right? So on his tier list, let's see. Yeah, there it is. So I can just do this. I can just hide mine and show his. So on his tier list, he put silverfish in the F tier, which I strongly disagree with, considering how long that silverfish can go without food and water. It's ridiculous. They can just, if they can find someplace moist to hold up, someplace that's not dry, they'll rock it. They can live and they can sustain themselves off hardly anything, off nibblings of wood and cardboard and paper, just little nibblings of it. They can survive for years and years on and reproduce by consuming nothing but that. Now, when it comes to the other two clades here, I did tend to agree. They were both, well, no, actually, I shouldn't say the other two. When it comes to the stick insects, I disagree. But when it comes to the butterflies, I guess I said the other two clades, I think of butterflies and moths. But they were put together in this group. I think that butterflies and moths in general, I would rank them maybe different from one another, or at least they should have roped in the caddisflies, because caddisflies don't appear anywhere else on this list. So, and this would be the closest group to them. Caddisflies kind of toe that line between but what is and isn't a Lepidopteran, because they have several of the features and are clearly a genetic cousin to moths and by extension butterflies. Lepidopterans all have a distinct mouth part. It's a proboscis, and caddisflies are more primitive and they have mandibles. Like the mandibles are what they would call a basal characteristic for the insect clade. What I mean by basal characteristic is that it's a characteristic that was presumably found in the root population to all the clades underneath a grouping. So all the clades that fall into I guess it'd be nested within the clade. So all of the insects are one clade together, and then all these different groups are within them, but they're all descended from a common ancestor that had certain features that we can pick out in other clades, and these features are passed down. They are not too derivative from them. Like the proboscis of the moth and the butterfly, the way that they consume liquids, that they have this proboscis, this distinct characteristic, is different and derived from the basal formation, which was dual mandibles. We see that in many of the insect clades that we're going to discuss, including in the silverfish, which is also very basal. So, including caddisflies on that list, their larvae tend to be a little more fierce, I guess, would be a way to describe them. So that wasn't necessarily brought up in the tier, but it's not enough to move them up from D tier, in my opinion. So I agree with the moths and butterflies and caddisflies in D tier. I do not agree with the silverfish being F tier like he has them here. Okay, so that's where I am so far. Can we put aphids in F tier? Well, they put aphids with true bugs. We will talk about that. That does come up. But without further ado, let us continue on and see where Tier Zoo goes from here, and we will decide how we feel about it. Okay? I didn't do a slide, individual slide for each ranking, but I did do a slide I will show at the end where I am, and then we can compare it to where he is. All right, let's go.
Are a massively successful faction and are going to be concentrated in the higher tiers. At the bottom of C tier.
Yay, cockroaches. You all know I love cockroaches. People always ask, what's your favorite animals? What's your favorite bugs? What's the ones you have the most of? And people think, oh, mantis or spider. I have more variety and more number of species of cockroaches. I think they're fascinating creatures. They're easy to care for. So yeah, there's that. And this is a good place to start the show. So let's get going. I pause like 13 seconds in.
Here we have the cockroach. The cockroach is the ultimate survivor, which opted to spec into mobility, stealth, and a multitude of elemental resistances in lieu of any offensive abilities. While they don't pack much heat, their flat shape allows them to easily wedge themselves into locations that are extremely difficult for other players to attack them in. They're rather clumsy flyers, but they do have an above-average ground movement speed, enabling them to quickly scurry to cover if they see a predator player approaching. However, when caught out in the open or backed into a corner, they're fairly helpless and easily one of the most vulnerable builds in the entire insect faction.
Now, it's much like the when we talked about the stick insects, and what we will mention or bring up if we're going to get into orthopterans in just a bit, but they have spiny legs that on a equal size footing. I mean, they're showing them here getting stomped on by large animals, but on equal footing. The spiky legs of like a Madagascar hissing cockroach, for instance, is nothing to scoff at. They're not hissing to try to just say, if you come near me, I'm going to hiss at you. They're hissing to say, you come near me, I'm going to hit you with my spiky legs. And if you ever handled a Madagascar hissing cockroach, you will understand how potentially painful they can be if you try to control them. They're okay if you let them crawl around on their own. When you try to start forcing them this way or that way, they get a little bit feisty, and they will spike you.
They're also somewhat carried by human mains, making temperate and tundra servers viable for them, because really, as impressive as their toxin and radiation resistance abilities are, they're quite vulnerable to the cold, and would still be mostly confined to jungle servers.
Bonk. I don't know, cockroaches are more numerous in like a jungle biome. There's more variety and more colorful and more diversity in what niches that they fill in those environments. They're for almost completely they're eating detritus. They're detritivores, or detritivores. That's the word for it. Detritivores is what cockroaches are, and they eat waste and leaf litter, dead things. One key feature of cockroaches that we are going to that he's going to just gloss over here, I believe, but that we will talk about in the next segment is the ability to digest the cellulose in the wood, and how that was a game changer, but he does not give that credit to the cockroaches here like he should. And when he says that they'd be limited to the jungle servers, I disagree. Wood roaches specifically live well up into the pine forest. There are species of wood roaches that live up into what's the belt called? The where with all the evergreen. It's gonna drive me crazy. I'm gonna look it up real quick because it's gonna drive me crazy. I keep wanting to think alpine, but that's like a specific type of mountain range. It's a coniferous biome. Let me see. I guess they just call it the coniferous forest biome. Oh, there's the word I was looking for. Taiga. Taiga. There's wood roaches that are indigenous to taiga forest, which spend a lot of time under the snow. So while they are not, living in the Arctic regions, as far as insects go and their tolerances, way above anything else that we're going to see on this tier list besides Diptera, and we will get to that as well. Let's continue on and see if this, because I know you all have been poised. Oh, why do I still have this up? Sorry, there you go. I know I didn't mean to leave that up like that. Sorry. Did we all miss all the video and stuff? Just hear the audio? Let me know when I goof like that, because
if not for humans unlocking the fire control ability. The biggest variants may be able to tank 1 or 2 hits, but even then, with no way to fight back, they're still pretty screwed.
They do have a way to fight back, though. They have, like I said, the spiky legs. Yeah, they're not mantis combatants, but as far as on equal footing with predators, they can defend themselves. They're just not all that impressive, but it's there, and for some species it actually is quite impressive, like again the Madagascar hissers. Cockroaches can bite. Their bites aren't their mandibles are not necessarily I don't want to say that their mandibles are weak, but because they're like the equivalent of like a scavenger, I guess, that they're good at tearing things up. So if you're sedentary, like say you're like bedridden or something, cockroaches will learn that you are not, because they're not as far as insects go, they're not dumb, and they're very receptive to the chemicals and pheromones in the airs and the smells. So if you're bedridden and you have bed sores and you don't move a lot, they will come and bite you. That's the problem with pest cockroaches specifically, and that's another thing that doesn't get touched on too much here. He's putting them on and again, he maybe ranks things differently than I do, because I'm all about ecology and how they fare in the meta as an entire species, not how each individual fares one-on-one against all other individuals. So as a species, cockroaches, they contend with us in our own custom environment. So we're going to talk real quick about what a pest is, because a pest is any animal that has adapted to live in human customized environments, human biomes that we create apart from nature. So the animals that we force into these biomes, they're domesticated, right? We consider them domesticated, and they are either pets or labor animals, whatever. But the pest species, and this goes for plants and animals, the pest species are animals that essentially domesticated themselves as a byproduct of us making our own biomes. And cockroaches take advantage of these little pocket biomes that we as a species make, and they just travel all over the face of the earth, right? These specific, like the terrible 5 is what we used to call them in the bug forums. There's the Oriental cockroach, the Turkish cockroach. The Turkish cockroach isn't that bad, depending on where you live. You can't have them in like a tropical climate because they can breed, but in a temperate climate, they are not. They don't breed naturally. But where was I? American cockroach, Turkish cockroach, Oriental, German, and American. Yeah, those are the terrible five, and they're of varying degrees, and some of them are worse than others, but nothing competes with the German cockroach. They are just top tier pest species that just cannot be defeated. You can have them in a home, in a house, in an apartment, and they are almost impossible to get rid of. You have to poison the entire atmosphere for weeks at a time, sometimes, to get rid of a heavy cockroach infestation. Well, yeah, Maya, they domesticated themselves by adapting their ecology to accommodate living among humans. So, yeah, they adapted themselves, or they domesticated themselves. Cockroaches would be something that we would say domesticated itself. A barn sparrow domesticated itself. Cats domesticated themselves too. We just thought they were cute, and they served a nice purpose of controlling the other things that had domesticated themselves that were less desirable. Because rodents do well in human areas, because our agriculture is what they would farm if they had the brain capacity to farm. All right, so there's my rant about pest species. But yes, that's why cockroaches rank higher, in my opinion. Again, we will get to that. But yeah, they rank, I put cockroaches up. When he tells his tier, I'll tell mine. Well, he's told his tier, I guess. I put cockroaches in B tier. Cockroaches are freaking fantastic organisms, and they are diverse and live and thrive pretty much everywhere. Again, they're almost impossible to wipe out once they take hold in a biome. The only thing that can really take them out efficiently is cold weather, and even then, it just like the thing. If those eggs that they had defrost, they will respawn. Let's see.
If they fail to outright escape a fight.
Oh, why are you buffering? Earwigs. It's not actually, earwigs are something we haven't talked too much about. It's another species that does kind of take hold as a pest species, but yeah.
Next in C tier, we have the earwig, a fearsome-looking generalist build, which appears to have a giant pair of mandibles on its rear end, called cerci. As fearsome as these cerci forceps are, if we actually check the earwig's base stats, we quickly notice that, just like all of its other stats, its power stat is actually quite mediocre. As menacing as the cerci are, the actual piercing damage they can deal is fairly minimal, and can even be deflected by the most basic of armor. And even against builds without armor, the damage is so low that larger builds still don't really need to be wary of approaching an earwig, and can attack without restraint. Still, just because they can doesn't mean they do, as the earwig's intimidation factor alone is oftentimes enough to protect.
I did like that. That's like a stegosaurus with a stagomizer. I want to watch that again. Do it again.
Still, just because they can doesn't mean they do, as the earwig's intimidation factor alone is oftentimes enough to protect it from conflict. And credit where credit is due, the forceps are actually fairly decent in matchups against soft-bodied insects, and allow the earwig to carry their targets much better than they could with their jaws. And while it may seem silly to have opted for rear-facing weapons instead of the more typical forward-facing ones like mandibles and rostrums, the position does actually serve a purpose, in that it allows earwigs far greater access to burrows and tight spaces, where they can hide out and avoid conflict altogether.
And it also allows them to put their delicate little heads in the ground and keep their pinchers pointed out. So the only thing sticking out of the hole would be those pinchy parts, because earwigs like to live, as it's showing here, like in little tight areas. They're very similar to silverfish like this.
Of all the weapons insects have access to, Cersei might be some of the most unorthodox, which probably contributes to its ability to intimidate other players. However, I think to get out of mid-tier, earwigs need to actually have the ability to back up their threat display. They would do well to spec into some sort of venom. Venom-infused stings are a fairly common attribute for insects, so this feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. So, while certainly a viable mid-tier, don't overestimate this build's abilities.
I do like the way that they carry stuff like that, though. The only organism that I can think of that pinches a hold of something and carries it with its I understand there's lots of organisms that pinch a hold of something with their face, but I can't think of anything else that grabs something with a pincher grasp of a tail. Prehensile tails are, you can carry stuff with those, but as far as carrying something with a pincher grasp, I can't think of anything besides an earwig. There might be some other organisms with Cersei, and if I think of them, I'll say them. But yeah. Hey, Mark Reed. It was fun watching you and AJ take a bite out of the bit of orange there. Good stuff. We are going to grasshoppers. Well, he calls it crickets and grasshoppers. There's more in this clade than crickets and grasshoppers. There's wettas and we used to call them potato bugs here, but yeah, there's more than just crickets and grasshoppers, but we're going to talk about it. Let's go ahead and pop in here. Katydids anyway.
At the top of C tier, we've got the orthopterids, including grasshoppers, crickets, and katydids. These are the first mobility-centric builds on our list. While they're quite capable flyers, their true power comes from their saltatorial hind legs rather than their wings. Flight is an excellent defensive ability, as it allows the user to get out of reach of an attack's range. But this utility is lessened if their ability to get airborne has too much startup lag. And so instead of using their wings to get themselves up into the air, a powerful jump enables the orthopteran mains to escape vertically at instant speed. Their excellent vision makes it extremely difficult to get within striking range without alerting them. And because their jump has such excellent frame data, landing an ambush strike on an orthopteran can feel near impossible at times. And even if a player does manage to secure a grab, their powerful hind legs can function as quite an effective combo breaker. The spines on their legs augment...
So the one they're showing here is spiny-legged katydid, which these ones are freaking fierce looking, right? There's no place you can grab a hold of this guy without getting pricked. But there's a whole category of katydids that they're not even accommodating in this ranking system, which are the predaceous katydids. They are not a joke. They are. They show a mantis here. They are mantis level predators. They actually fare really well against mantises and end up eating a lot of mantises. The desert, they call it the red-eyed devil, but it's the these katydid that are from Texas and Oklahoma in that area. And they have these bright red eyes. They call it predaceous katydids, arid land predaceous katydids, and they are so fierce. They are capable of taking down birds. They are they eat lizards and frogs. They are nothing to trifle with, and I don't think that I don't know if he just doesn't know about them, but he does not account for them at all on this ranking.
It's the damage their kicks can deal, meaning that if a grasshopper can tank the first few hits of an ambush attack, they may be able to turn the tide of a confrontation and escape after dealing serious damage to the attacker. With that said, I think there are a few flaws in their strategy which I think keeps them out of the upper tiers. Grasshoppers can jump so far that there's really no way of knowing what sort of situation they're about to put themselves in. In a similar manner to the flying fish, using such a drastic escape option can sometimes end up putting you in a worse position than you were before, especially if your local meta has a lot of spider players. And although they do present a challenge, most predator players aren't disrupted by the grasshopper's kicks, and can either tank the damage outright or one-hit the grasshopper before it even has a chance to retaliate. At the bottom of
All right, so is this where we stop at? Hold on, let me see. Did we do all 4 of them already? Okay, we gotta do true bugs. But we're going to save that for another day. So right now, this is where we are. We have my ranking. Where I actually, well, did we? I swear, it looks like I got them out of order, though. Hold on. Yeah, we're going to go all up to mantises. I don't know why I forgot to put true bugs on my ranking, but, oh yeah, it's because true bugs are an S tier, and we'll talk about that when we get to S tier. That's why. So, well, yeah, we're going to let Guy go on now.
Hemipterans, a diverse order of insects with a few things in common, including generally having high defense and being somewhat shield-shaped. However, the most notable thing is that rather than slicing or pinching mouth parts, the Hemiptera build opts for a piercing rostrum, perfect for puncturing through tough surfaces. For the majority of Hemipteran builds, this allows them to farm XP from sources that are normally hard to access, like the energy-dense sap inside trees and stems, or the starch.
Yeah, that does sound like an 80s video game. That's my that's why I like it so much. Yeah, this actually inspired me a little bit on my other channel on how I want, like, the theme I want to go with, like
inside of seeds. However, there are some hemipterans which use their sharp rostrum to deliver a venomous bite that is able to pierce through armored targets. Their venom is powerful enough to one-shot just about any other insect, and can even deal severe damage to larger builds. The only major shortcoming here is that these so-called assassin bugs tend to actually have fairly low stealth, opting for the aposematic intimidation defense I mentioned earlier. And on top of all that, they have fairly low mobility, making actually ambushing another player kind of difficult if they're actually paying enough attention to simply dodge the attacks and flee. Some do break this trend though, and opt for both better
are you going to mention how
camouflage and high aquatic mobility, making them some of the most fearsome aquatic builds in the game. On the herbivore side of things, hemipterans tend to fare a bit worse. They usually still have fairly low mobility and low stealth, and their defenses may be higher than the average, but are nowhere near as impenetrable as some of the builds higher on this list.
So we gotta clear a lot up on bugs, I guess. So he did cover the water bugs, the giant water bugs with their pinchy venomous mouth parts that are macro predators. I've seen pictures of them taking down turtles before, so they're absolutely fierce combatants. I need to stop leaving that up there so you all can't see what he's showing. No, I'm sorry. Let me rewind it a little bit so y'all can see. I keep my tier ranking up there.
This allows them to farm XP from sources that are normally hard to access.
Anyway, I'm going to play out that play why I talk for a minute here since you all missed the action. So they want to talk about water bugs. They don't talk about water striders, which are a specific group of predatory true bugs that are exceptionally well adapted for what they do, and one of the only organisms that do what they do. They're so unique that they could be in their own ranking here, but I'm going to Sorry about the leaving that up there. So anyway, I'm going to give them a hell of a bump for that, and then I'm going to give them the majority of the bump for the same reason I give the cockroaches the majority bump. So to what cockroaches are to human homes, bugs, notably aphids, which were mentioned before, they do really well in human habitats with plants, with our agricultural stock, right? They are quite destructive, famously destructive. The spotted lanternfly, for instance, as we all know, in the U.S. right now, is spreading ever further inland and decimating our trees. So, hi, Big Bad Mama. It's good to see ya. Talking bug talk tonight. Glad you were able to drop in. So we just there's just this undercurrent of maybe a I don't know that we're not covering all of the bugs. That's a big, and I get it. True bugs is a big group, but we can't leave out. And you even show like the katydids and say that they're low tier or they don't perform very well, which is wild to me because they seem to do pretty great. They are the trees are pretty loud in the summer. Yeah, the trees. Yeah, I posted a meme about that earlier today. I think where I said it's on this channel. Yeah, where I said it said that who was the first person to discover that katydids were not katydids, that cicadas. Do I keep saying katydids? Cicadas is what I'm talking about. That cicadas are what's screaming up in that trees for thousands of years. We're just like, oh, it's summer. The trees are screaming again. That's what they do in the summer. And just the trees scream for no reason. Yeah. So with the true bugs, you have aphids, and someone, I think it was Godseed that was joking about aphids being low tier, but they are literally so well adapted to their niche that they don't even move. They're sedentary. There are species of aphids that literally just they hatch from their egg, then they cling on to the plant stem that they're on, stick their proboscis in there, and there they stay for the rest of their lives. They're camouflaged, so yeah. You think that's where the myths of dryads came from, is what was screaming in the trees? That's an interesting theory. I like the screaming trees. Folded like an old dollar bill. Good song by the Screaming Trees. If you don't know them, check them out. And I love harmonicas. Why, that's my favorite Screaming Trees song. Any band who has a harmonica song, I'll say that's my favorite of their songs. Like, ask me what my favorite Black Sabbath song is, I'm gonna be like The Wizard, because there's harmonica in it. My favorite Aerosmith song, Pink, because there's a harmonica in it. I love a harmonica. Can't help it. They are the sexiest instrument in the instrument clade. Moving on. We need to get this done. We're almost out of time. I'm not really on a deadline or anything. I'm just... Oh, you done mute it.
Ambushing another player kind of difficult if they're actually paying enough attention to simply dodge the attacks and flee. Some do break this
There
trend
we go.
though,
Yeah,
and
that's
opt
what you
for both
missed.
better camouflage and high aquatic mobility, making them some of the most fearsome aquatic builds in the game.
Oh my gosh, I used to have one of those, though. You all remember my... they only lived for one season, so mine's gone now. But it lived in this aquatic tank up here, right? It was a fierce mamma jamma. It was... I have lots of videos and stuff of it, though. So actually, I might play one at the end of this just to show you guys. But yeah, let's go. Moving on. He's gonna like lowball him here now.
The herbivore side of things, hemipterans tend to fare a bit worse. They usually still have fairly low mobility and low stealth, and their defenses may be higher than the average, but are nowhere near as impenetrable as some of the builds higher on this list. They tend to rely on a chemical defense similar to some phasmids, which is where they get the name stink bugs from. However, similar to phasmids, these
That's true, yeah.
defenses also tend to be a bit lacking and often fail to deter attackers. So certainly a group with some standout members and fine for XP farming, but still nothing too broken.
So I'm just gonna say right now that in my ranking, I play harmonica too, Big Bad Mama. Actually not too bad at harmonica. It was like when I was playing like working musician, that was the one that got me the most fanfare. When I'd pull out the harmonica, the audience would go, oh, it was always great. They liked the mandolin too when I'd get that out. I used to play, I've played in all kinds of different bands. I've played in several hard rock and metal bands that never went beyond a garage, but I've played in a working band that did bluegrass and folk music. So yeah, I have made money on the folk music circuit because I do play mandolin and banjo and harmonica. I also can play the Irish tin whistle. I used to have to give me the music and time to prepare for it. But yeah, I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I also play bass and guitar, of course. Play those that many strings without doing that. Unfortunately, with the strings, my hands are just because I work on computers all day too, and then I do this for my hobby. So my hands are always sore. So playing guitars, I can't play like I used to for hours and hours. My son is now a working musician. He's played a lot of big shows with. He's had a couple of different bands going. But yeah, we are a musical lot here. Oh, and let's see. We're going to look at lacewings and antlions. Oh my.
And topping off B tier, we have the Neuroptera, a rather clumsy build with some pretty pathetic looking base stats. Genuinely one of the least agile flyers in the entire game. However, looking at the final form of this build paints a highly misleading picture of its capabilities. The larval form, which is the form they spend the vast majority of their time as, is a brutally effective predator build for any player who prefers the camping playstyle. Taking a look at the larva's stats, we see that they have incredibly high power and stealth for their size. Antlions have a devastating, venomous bite, which they use to one-shot unsuspecting players before draining all their life points with their hollow jaws. Because of their ability to construct pitfall traps, their passive stealth rating is extremely high, making their ambush playstyle unbelievably effective. As if escape wasn't hard enough, once the prey gets caught in their trap, the antlion even has the ability to launch projectiles to stun.
Oh, right, yes. And when it comes to insects and arthropods in general, but insects specifically because their molts go through so many different phases, right? People always focus on the adult phase, like that's or the adult instar is what is the term that we use when we're talking about insects. It's called an instar, but the focus is always on the adults, and that's because as humans, it's reaching adulthood is the ultimate goal, and then you're an adult in society. Where with insects, oftentimes the juvenile stages are the majority of the animal's lifespan. The most that it spends the most time as a juvenile. It spends, for longhorn beetles, they can spend up to 40 years, in their larval form before springing out to just live a matter of months in an adult stage. So it does tend to reflect on insects that we need to look at their other life stages as well, which is what we're going to see when it comes to lace wings, and he's gonna break down why their lack of efficiency isn't really a problem for them in their adult stage. Maybe.
On its target, making escape a near impossibility. I have an entire video dedicated to the overpowered abilities of Neuropteran larvae, but in short,
That is a good video, by the way.
they are what the earwig pretends to be. If you took the earwig Circe, put them in front, and made them sharper and gave them deadly venom to boot, you'd have an antlion. So why the weak adult form? Having spent all their evolution points optimizing their larval form, they spend hardly any time at all as adults. They don't even have the ability to eat in this form, and really only exist to be a vessel that allows players to find each other and complete the mating questline, something they lack the ability to do in their much less
Isn't
mobile
that cool
larval
looking
form.
though? Look at that.
So while I do think it'd be more
Did you that when they have that all spread out like that, it's so cool.
something they lack the
Look at
ability to
that.
do in their much less mobile larval form. So while I do think it'd be more impressive if they didn't take such a massive cut to
Yeah,
their
just
power level
keep
during
your
their final
jaws at
level
least,
up,
right?
there's no denying that for the vast majority of their playtime, these builds are an absolute menace to encounter.
And there's things like the Dobson flies, for instance, which are the larval forms are called Helgramites that live. They're aquatic and they're these massive, big pincher-jawed insects, right? And their adult form, they keep their big pincher jaw, but they don't. He doesn't have them on the list at all. And I wonder if maybe he doesn't know that they exist. But they are. Surely he knows Helgramites exist, right? Someone who ranks bugs, who ranks animals. You have seen eggs like that, Titan? That's super cool. Make sure you share those pictures. I don't get on my Discord as much as I should, but I always like looking to see what you dropped in the image section. 1 second. All right, I am back. Sorry for stepping away there for a second. Yeah, it's kind of like dating sim. He uses like video game lingo in this videos he makes. So yeah. All right, let's continue on because guys, he's getting to what may be my favorite bug, maybe. At least my most beloved bug, I would say that at the very least. Okay.
At the bottom of A tier, we have a personal favorite of mine, the mantis. Mantises have a fairly straightforward playstyle consisting of slashing and grabbing their targets using powerful spiked raptorial forelimbs. If we take a look at the mantis' stats, we see that
I had like a long time ago, I had this like video that was really badly edited, but it was cute, that of a mantis eating a mealworm and talking about raptorial arms and how they evolved. Yeah.
the mantis has one of the highest base power stats of any non-venomous insect. It also has a stealth stat similar to that of a walking stick, which it...
It's funny, that's an adult looking at a baby. Why did it go all the way back there? Ah! What did I do? I think I clicked. Sorry, babes. I'll get us caught back up. Where were we? Mantises there.
spiked raptorial forelimbs. If we take a look at the mantis's stats, we see that the mantis has one of the highest base power stats of any non-venomous insect. It also has a stealth stat similar to that of a walking stick, which it desperately needs in order to be able to get within striking range of its targets. Its
There's a mantis eating a mantis.
Slow movement speed makes chasing prey basically impossible. However, what they lack in movement speed, they easily make up for with strike speed. The mantis's strike is lightning quick, to the point that it's easily able to hit targets that are normally considered hopelessly evasive. As powerful as these strikes are, one weakness of the
That's a chemical weapon that's about to get bursted onto this mantis. You watch and see.
strategy is that the grappling attack doesn't immobilize the target, and actually brings them within range of a counterattack.
That's a cool thing about mantises too, though, is that they don't care about killing their prey. That's not the goal. The goal is to grapple the prey, to fisticuffs, I guess, to tangle it and get it in its in their fold. Unfortunately, as you're going to see, it's not as effective all the time.
And while the mantis's large size enables it to tank most counterattacks, attacking a venomous target can end up being a serious blunder for a mantis player. So definitely a powerful high-tier predator, but not one that's so invincible that mantis mains can get careless.
That doesn't always come out that way either with a wasp and a hornet and a mantis, because mantises will grab a hold of a hornet just like they will a bee. This one was just unlucky and got stung.
Next.
All right, I think that's where we stop, right? Let me see. Yeah, okay. So next he does true flies. So I while I am impressed by the lacewings larval stages, in my personal opinion, I did drop them down to C tier from B tier. I just don't think that that the predatory behavior of those larval stages is necessarily all that impressive. I don't know. I'm not trying to downplay them or anything. Not trying to insult them at all. They are super cool, and I would love to have a pet ant lion at some point. Sometimes Bugs in Cyberspace has ant lions on their website. I might order one someday. Anyway, but the he hypes them, which is great. I don't have anything but love for Tier Zoo, even when I disagree with some of their rankings and stuff. I absolutely adore Tier Zoo, and I recommend everybody go check it out if they've never seen it before. I used to watch it with my youngest son Grayson, and we would put on an episode every time it would come out. We would just put it. I'd be like, "Hey, and the new episode of Tier Zoo comes on," and we would get together and watch it. It was good stuff. Anyhow, so I do recommend Tier Zoo. Now, yeah, my ranking is going to look different. I also don't hype mantises quite as much as our friend here. I'm not like slamming on the mantises or anything. You all know I love mantises, but to me they're clumsy little bumbles. I don't know. They're cute, but as far as being like effective predators, they rarely tackle anything bigger than their head. Actually, if you look at some mantis care sheets, it'll even tell you that. Don't feed it anything bigger than its head, which is silly. They can eat stuff bigger than their head, but they do tend to prefer that. Their preferred prey is flies, and that's in nature what they spend 90% of their time munching on. They are opportunistic and will eat anything they can subdue, but they're natural prey. They're what they've evolved to feed on. With these excellent eyesight and fast lightning flash reflexes and strike speed that he's talking about here, is to catch flies, to snag flies out of the air. And they're really good at it, and it's freaking adorable. I used to, when I have a barbecue outside, I just have my mantises hanging out with me and catching flies that came around to try to bug the food. It was good stuff. So, with that said, I think I am going to call it a night. Yep. Yeah, the giant mantises and Fallout. Yeah. Anyhow, yeah. Let's please remember to take care and be kind, and we'll see you next time.